Hey, Newsa-Cast listeners. Just want to give you a little information about the mission of the Newsa-Cast. Our mission stems from the mission of the Red Smith Banquet, and that mission was to support youth sports in the Fox Valley. Over the 57 years of its existence, we've been honored to give out over $1 million to various youth sports organizations throughout the Fox Valley. The Newsa-Cast is looking to continue that mission and support youth sports as well. You can help us do that by donating to the Newsa-Cast and the Red Smith Sports Banquet.
Today on the Newsa-Cast, Bob Uecker, Mr. Baseball. We have to dedicate an episode to the man. He came to the Red Smith Banquet in 1982, and we have the full version of it for you. Tosh and I take an old look at new, which is presented by Raleigh Winter and Associates. And we end the show like we always do with a little It's Forgotten and I'm Never Forgetting. So what do you say, folks? Let's get this show on the road.
I think that when the word baseball, champions is mentioned, my name would automatically come to your mind.
Welcome to the Newsa-Cast. What is a Newsa-Cast? It's where we bring local folk stories to life through conversation.
All right, Newsa-Cast listeners, welcome to another episode of that podcast that everybody loves, the Newsa-Cast. We are doing a little, a twist on our normal setup and going back to that Tommy Lasorda type of interview where we're going to dive back into the archives of the Red Smith Banquet and give you the entire Mr. Baseball, Bob Uecker interview.
You know, Tosh, this is one of the cool things about this whole podcast project, right? We wanted to have the throwbacks, go back to the old banquets. And we weren't 100% sure. I mean, I always knew in the back of my head, I always felt like Bob Uecker, Tommy Lasorda were two of the best all-time speeches at the Red Smith Banquet ever.
Absolutely.
At least the ones that I remember. But I wasn't sure we could ever really get them to play. And one, we found the tape. That was huge because these things exchange hands about, over 57 years. You can imagine how often this stuff moves around. And then Taylor, our editor, was able to clean it up, and we've got Bob freaking Uecker in 1983. Tosh, it's incredible. It is.
Yeah,
it's so I don't know. I laugh at LOL, right? That's in every text that we send, but It's literally laugh out loud funny. It is so funny.
Well, we'll get into it too at some point, but I mean, for those of you who don't know Bob Uecker, I mean, the guy has had an amazing career. He's been on television. He used to be on the Johnny Carson show. He's been all over. He hasn't just been the Brewers announcer. He's been all over everything. And the fact that we have him here in Milwaukee and Wisconsin as the head broadcaster of the Brewers is a pretty special thing.
His delivery, I love the dry sense of humor, and you can hear it in his play-by-play call. But his deadpan, dry sense of humor is the only other person that's equal to him, in my opinion, is Chevy Chase. Those two, I think, have similar mannerisms to themselves, and it's my favorite. It's just my absolute favorite form of humor.
And as far as broadcasting goes as well, I mean, it's one of the greats. He ranks up there with the best of the best. I mean, Vince Scully. You name the best broadcasters ever, Bob Uecker's right up there with them.
No, absolutely. It's my brother and I always joke that we lived through Brett Favre's career, maybe my favorite Packer ever to play. And I think the saddest day, though, in Wisconsin history is going to be the day that Ueck hangs it up. And I know he's pretty close now, but, I mean, he's been there, Tosh. We looked it up before, right? 53 years he's been calling baseball games. That's how old we are, basically. We're just a hair older.
Came on in 1971 for the Brewers. I mean, that's pretty incredible. I mean, how many teams have, it's kind of like the Packers and quarterbacks. You know, they've had 3 quarterbacks over the course of how many years? The Brewers have had, one main broadcaster since 1971. That's pretty incredible.
Oh, it really is. It's actually kind of the cool thing in baseball, isn't it? You had Vin Scully with the Dodgers in the World Series, right? We just had Tommy Lasorda on. I mean, but Vin Scully, the same thing, 50, 60 years in they're a part of our life. And you and I don't know the Brewers without Bob Uecker. We've obviously we have the TV call, but we've never heard a Brewer game without Bob Uecker.
And there are times when I will turn off the TV and just have the radio on and watch the game, or I'll just sit outside and listen because Bob Uecker, he was that good. And granted, he doesn't do the full games anymore, but he was so much fun to listen to. So obviously we'll talk a little bit more before the interview with him and talk about some of our memories of Ueck. But
hey, Tosh, speaking of memories, we put out, we kind of glossed over it actually, but another great episode that we put out on Sunday was Max McGee, long time Packer play-by-play announcer. And I have to shout out because I wasn't quite sure how the joke went, but it came back to me when he said it. Max and my dad were pretty good buddies. I mean, there's some incredible stories that he used to tell about Max, but Max right off the bat with a joke saying the only reason that he's receiving the Red Smith Award was so that Danny Ornstein could visit his money from playing dice all those years, kicking dice. So it was actually a true story. Max and my dad, back in the 60s, would shake a lot of dice, but it was cool to hear Max too. I mean, he's another guy that's funny and we've had some great announcers, haven't we, Tosh? On all the sports, Jim Irwin.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously we're a little biased living in Wisconsin, but Matt LePay is right up there as well. Yeah. I mean, we have had some amazing announcers, and I'm sure everybody will say it, but we've had some of the best cover sports here in Wisconsin. No,
I would agree. And you're right. Everybody probably says the same.
But Joe, I know you took some time off of work and got to go see a fun band out of the west side of the United States, the Kitchen Dwellers at Poplar Hall.
Yeah, absolutely, Tosh. I did. I might talk about it a little bit later in a segment, but no, it was a great. I've said this before. I mean, I love Poplar Hall and the Kitchen Dwellers. Incredible. The Yonder Mountain String Band came here, I don't know, sometime in the last year, and they're awesome as well. But the Kitchen Dwellers kind of blew them away. I just, wow. They're literally incredible. I can't even describe them. The banjo, a lot of these bands have a banjo, but holy cow, this banjo in the Kitchen Dwellers is next level. It's unbelievable. And then the sound in Poplar Hall is always just so good. And it really does make a difference. And I would love to talk to the people at Poplar Hall at some point, not only about their music, but also about how they designed the building, because you're right. The acoustics are pretty incredible. Even with a huge bank of glass, they've created a very unique environment and a great place for music, but also events and stuff too. So absolutely. The Dwellers must have brought some lights with them because there was a little bit more of a light show in there, and it was really cool. They lowered the curtain almost not quite down to the floor on the big windows. I don't know if they always do that, but I happened to notice it this time. There was 3/4 of the way down, but the lights were fantastic, and the shot from the stage where you have the balcony, it's a pretty cool room for sure. And on Parks, the Dwellers are on tour right now, and I've been looking at some of the photos of the venues that they've played, and Poplar Hall doesn't have to take a backseat to anybody, and they're playing in Boston and some of the bigger cities out east, and Poplar Hall is right there. They have nothing to be ashamed of. It's a beautiful venue.
Yeah, absolutely. If you haven't been there yet, check it out. Check out music anytime they have it, because it's always good, and they always have good bands. I know the list escapes me of who's coming up. I know Yonder's coming back again at some point.
Yeah. Sierra Hall is the next one to catch in November.
Sierra Hall is fantastic. I'm not going to say it because I could be wrong, but she's really good. And
mandolin player.
Yeah, it's a great place right on the river. What's amazing to me is what's built there and has built up with the hotel and the apartments and Poplar Hall is that used to be like a super fun site. And when we grew up, it was literally they're, releasing gases from everything that's buried there, rotting away, and chemicals and whatever else you can imagine. And it's turned into this beautiful area now that's incredible to take a walk down, just to be on the river, catch some food at Broken Tree, and some drinks and some coffee at Tempest. Whatever you're into, it's a nice area, and that trail is fantastic.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Tosh, because it was an abandoned mill, and now whether you come down through Tallulah Park, there's an awesome trail now that's partially lit. Yep. But you can take it at night and feel pretty safe too. But during the day, awesome trail. Take it right to Poplar Hall, right up to Tallulah Park. Yeah, and then if you come down John Street there, you go right by the Bonta Bowl, one of our favorite places. Yeah, it's kind of a cool drive, and you're right. And the River Heath condos and apartments is I find out there's a lot of people live there. It's a pretty cool community, and you're right. And the trails too are. We've talked about them through on the podcast a little bit, but man, the trails through the flats in Appleton are really, really cool. And every year they kind of add to it, and you can really get around the Fox Cities now. I mean, certainly by bike, I can attest to that, but by foot as well. Yeah. So that's awesome. I'm glad you had a good time. We had football playoffs going on. We have some teams that pushed on. I know Kimberly and Neenah run into each other this Friday. It should be an incredible game at Kimberly. FBL is traveling over to Medford, which is correct. Yes.
Over by the Abbotsford area. It's a nice 2.5 hour drive for the boys. So
well, they were in Wausau too last Friday.
Yes, they were. Yeah. So they played well. Maybe they can pull an upset here. I know they're playing the number 1 seed in Medford, but you never know what can happen in football playoffs. So
yeah, no doubt about it, Tosh. I mean, it's going to be some great games. West Pier won. I mean, all the normal teams that you would expect. Although, did Bayport lose? They might not. I think they lost to Pier. I should know that, Tosh, but
I don't know. That's a good question.
Well, I try to ask good questions. So
yeah, I didn't pay attention to that. I know West Pier beat the boys from Oshkosh North, unfortunately, but the Oshkosh North made it a game for a while. It was actually pretty close, like 38-32, and then West Pier just pulled away. I mean, they're a good team. So, but Oshkosh North has nothing to sneeze about as far as their season. It was a fantastic season for them, making the playoffs for the first time in quite a while. So good for them. And, hopefully it's a sign of good things to come for that team.
Yeah, absolutely. And anything I say wrong in the world of sports, we still have Steve, the letter carrier. That's he gave me a stat today, actually, that I might use one day for the old look at new. And yeah, he keeps us in check, Tosh. That's for sure.
Well, that's good. That's good. Well, the other thing going on is we have the World Series, the Yankees and the Dodgers. As much as you hate both of those teams, it is something about the Fall Classic that is Yankees and Dodgers. And, as we record this, Game 3 is being played, but Freddie Freeman is on fire. I mean, that was as electric as it gets in Los Angeles when he hit the walk-off granny to win Game 1. That was, it automatically started pulling up clips of Kirk Gibson.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Oh, I remember that year too. Yeah.
Who was pitching?
Yeah, exactly. Well, who hasn't thought about, right, as a kid to hit the walk-off in a World Series, and Freddie did it. Second that ball left the bat, he knew.
Absolutely.
Just incredible. There has been some insane at bats this year. I think we might have talked about it in one podcast, but that Soto at bat to put the Yankees into the World Series, and Freeman's at bat, and who knows what's going to happen here. The Dodgers are actually pretty hot right now. You're right. They're up as we record in Game 3, and Dodger Blue.
Freddie hit his third home run. Is it his fifth straight World Series game with a home run?
God, that's
Goes
nuts,
back to Atlanta. Yeah. So he is, he's got the stroke down. So we'll see. I think he tied George Springer from the Houston Astros for 5 straight World Series games with a home run. So we'll see if he can get to number 6 in Game 4. So that's pretty incredible stretch of hitting right there over the course of a few World Series.
Isn't it funny too? I mean, it can work the other way as well. I mean, you look at Aaron Judge, and he's damn near the MVP maybe of the regular season. And in the postseason, he can't hit the broadside of a barn. You can't do that in New York, right? You're a bum if that happens.
You're right. But, we're also talking about the amount of scouting and different things that happen at the World Series level. I mean, these guys know where to pitch. Any flaw that you might have, they know exactly where they're going to throw you. And, these things, I know that people say, he can't hit in the big games, but there's reasons why these teams are in the World Series.
Right.
And they're pitching. These pitchers are good, and they know where to pitch. And if they don't make mistakes, they're very tough to hit. Yeah,
no doubt. I am in awe at the size of the Yankees lineup. When you go Stanton, Judge, and Soto, those 3 guys, oh my goodness, that's a lot of baseball player.
It is. It'll be interesting to see how the rest of the World Series goes, but then it'll be a very, very interesting offseason for Major League Baseball. We have a lot of free agents out there. We have a lot of guys coming up who are going to take a chance and they're going to be making some money. And that's the biggest thing. How can baseball sustain the salaries that they're giving away? I don't know. And I think that's going to be pretty interesting to look at as the World Series ends and we move into the off season.
Yeah, right. Hot stove league, Tosh. That's almost as exciting as the regular season some years.
Absolutely. Yeah. And what else are we going to talk about, Joe? There's something else. You got to go.
I should say we should we should have a little moment of silence for Phil Lesh, who passed away. And he was
might come up later.
Yeah. All right. We're just walking all over our stuff.
We're walking all over ourselves. Yeah. But you know what? That was that's obviously a sad thing for Grateful Dead fans. Phil Lesh passed away. Well, I'm sure that'll come back up later in the episode, but definitely played some Dead that night for sure.
Yeah.
But you also, speaking of music, got to see one of our former guests, Ben Mulwana.
Yeah, good Jay. That's it. Nailed it.
At August Haven, put on a little show.
Now that was the first time. They've been doing this for a while on once a month on Thursday at August Haven, a furniture store. And this is my first time there, and what a really, really cool venue. I mean, it's literally in a furniture store. They built a nice stage. They've got some refreshments, but you sit in the furniture that they sell. I don't know how else to say it. But yeah, I mean, the sound system is great. It was good to see Ben. Didn't get a chance to talk to him, but kind of waved, and he sent a nice message, and he sounded fantastic. He had his band. First time he had a new guitar player.
Okay.
Yeah. He was pretty impressive. And there were a lot of people there. I bet you there was 150, 200 people. Wow. I don't even know. It was a lot of people.
Nice.
But that was fun. That was
a nice
fun.
Recliner to sit in?
I could have. I ended up standing. I don't know why, but I leaned against a wall and had a pretty good view. So
nice. There you go. That's all that matters.
But I would definitely recommend that to anybody. Add that to venues to see music in this area. Check out August Haven and 91.1. We don't talk about them much, Tosh, but huge sponsors. I mean, you mentioned I was the Kitchen Dwellers at Poplar Hall. 91.1 was there. You know, they're a sponsor there in August Haven. They're partners with actually, they do their radio show beforehand. So I think from 4 to 5, they do the radio show, and then whatever music.
Steve March Torme, was he?
Yeah, it could be. I got there a little bit late. I had to
Okay.
work that day. Didn't get there till a little after 5. So that was already.
He's
already
one of their
going.
guys. He does a show, and does a great job. I mean, 91.1 is a fantastic radio station. It's local. They depend on your money, donations to keep it running, and it's fantastic. They play such a wide variety of music. Absolutely love that station. Pretty much on standby in my vehicle when I'm not listening to other stuff and podcasts and everything else while I'm driving.
We should have them on the podcast, Tosh. It is a really cool story. I actually listened to a podcast that I don't even know which one it was, where a couple of the folks from 91.1 were on it. And they talk about their story and their history and what they do. And you're right. It's listener supported, community, local driven. I mean, they play all the Mile of Music artists, and they'll play the Kitchen Dwellers. They'll play all these groups that people never heard of yet everybody heard of. So
and a lot of Mile of Music people as well. So
right, ton of it, definitely. Well, huge supporters.
I suppose that people are probably done listening to us and want to get on with the rest of the show. So I guess it's time to move on.
Yeah, let's move on, Tosh. It's that time again, once again, for an old look at new, brought to you by Raleigh Winter and Associates, celebrating 55 years. Did you know that in 1962, an Appleton junior high school teacher with a strong work ethic started a residential realty company? His name, Raleigh Winter. 3 generations later, the Winters still hold true to a strong work ethic and an excellent reputation in the community. Today, Raleigh Winter and Associates remain actively involved in providing retail, office, and industrial users an affordable, well-designed working environment through the creation and/or acquisition of quality real estate in the Fox cities and even beyond new. So what do you say? Let's take an old look at new.
All right, Newsa-Cast listeners, it's time for that look at history. We like to call an old look at new. Joe, what are you taking a stab at this week?
Well, Tosh, I'm taking a stab at technology because right as you called on me, my phone stopped working and I lost what I wanted. But what I was going to talk about was, I believe the year was 1985 with the World Series going on. The St. Louis Cardinals were in the World Series, and they were warming up before the game. And back in those days, they had an automatic tarp that must have gone underneath the field and then kind of popped up. And because my phone died, I spaced on who the player was, Tosh, but it was a starter for the Cardinals, and he got his foot rolled up and caught in the tarp and pinned, like he couldn't get it out. And I do remember when that actually happened. That was actually a big deal when that happened, and hurt his foot and was taken out of the lineup. But yeah, poor guy is warming up, and for whatever reason, the automatic tarp started going automatic, and it caught his ankle and rolled up his foot into the tarp. And it took a solid 10 minutes before they were able to get him out.
That's crazy. That's probably why we don't see those anymore, right?
That's right, Tosh.
Well, we still get all the people who fall underneath and get rolled or have to come running out of the tarp and get all those people out there for those rain delays. But
yeah, that's kind of cool. I mean, it is kind of fun. I like watching that. No, I do too. I do too, Tosh. Could my phone get to work here? And I just want to see who. Oh, Vince Coleman. Vince Coleman.
Oh yeah, Vince Coleman.
Yes,
speedster.
Yes. Absolutely,
yep.
Absolutely.
Stole a lot of bases in his day.
Yeah. The tarp caught his left leg for about 30 seconds, but it ended the season for him. So that was,
There you go.
As a rookie, Tosh, he sold 110 bases.
Yeah. Those were the days, right?
Got
Ricky Henderson.
Yeah.
He got.
Wow. Hey-o. All right, Tosh, I'll get off that subject, and I'll hand it over to you, Tosh. What are you going to take a look at this week?
All right, we're going back to Halloween of 1968, and I'm not talking about any ghouls or anything like that, but that 1968, October 31st, the Milwaukee Bucks won their very first game, They
Nice.
beat the Detroit Pistons 134-118 at the old Milwaukee Arena.
Yeah, the Mecca, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So, yeah, that was 1968. It was the first year for I believe they were 0-5 at that point, and they got that first win under their belts on Halloween nights.
Well, Lou Alcindor was going to be there pretty quickly, and they turned around things pretty quick.
Yeah,
that's actually a nice turnaround for the Bucks. So 68's their first game, and shoot by 70-71. I can't remember when they won the title in there. They won the title back there. One of those years. Steve will correct us on or get me that information, but you're right. You're right. Well, it takes one good player, right, Tosh?
That's true. Hopefully the Bucks can win another title this year, but we'll have to see. It's a long season, so we got a couple good players. There's quite a few good players, but see what Giannis can do for the Bucks this year, and Dame and everybody involved. So.
We talked about radio announcers a couple of times now in this show, and another great one played back in those early 70s for the Bucks, Johnny Mac, John McLaughlin.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Him and Jim Irwin, they our growing up years in the 80s, they were the play-by-play announcers for the Bucks.
Yeah, that's true. I forgot about that. Absolutely. Yeah. All right. Well, that's all looking new. And who's that brought to us by, Joe?
Tosh, that's brought to you by our good friends at Raleigh Winter and Associates. Hey, Newsa-Cast listeners, help us grow by subscribing wherever you get your pods or sharing the Newsa-Cast. Follow us on Facebook, X, TikTok, or Instagram. Northeastern Wisconsin Sports Advancement is a 501c3 organization. Our mission is to raise money, provide support, and bring greater awareness for youth sports organizations in Northeast Wisconsin. We do this primarily through the Red Smith Sports Award Banquet and the Newsa-Cast. Each year, we give back to the community through 3 initiatives: the Every Kid Plays Grant, the Gives Back Initiative, and scholarships to student athletes.
All right, Newsa-Cast listeners, I have the absolute pleasure of doing the intro for our Bob Uecker throwback. Bob Uecker, for me, he is one of a kind. He is the guy I listened to growing up, listening to the Brewers, watched him on Mr. Belvedere, read the book, The Catcher in the Rye, not The Catcher in the Rye from J.D. Salinger, but The Catcher in the Rye from Bob Uecker. And it is absolutely hilarious. If you have not read it, you probably should go and read it at some time. He is one of the funniest people that, I've had the pleasure of listening to. And when he came in 1983 to the Red Smith Banquet, it was a true experience for those who were there. I was not there at that, but I've listened to this, and I don't know if I've laughed this hard in a long time. So if you're not a Brewers fan and you haven't listened to Bob Uecker before, this is your chance to get what Bob Uecker is. I mean, he has been with the Brewers since 1971. It's going to be a sad day in baseball when he is done broadcasting for the Brewers. I know he doesn't do as much as he used to, but anytime I get to hear him do an inning or two, it's an absolute joy. I mean, there are times when I'd rather go sit and listen to the game than and hear Bob Uecker than to watch it on TV. That's how I kind of grew up. I mean, when I was growing up, the Brewers weren't on TV every single day like they are now. We got to watch the Cubs and the Braves. All right, they're on TV. We had radio broadcasts, and Bob Uecker was the guy who brought the Brewers to me here in Appleton, Wisconsin. So I hope you enjoy just sitting back and listening to him. It's just going to be a joy for you. And if you haven't gone and listened to the Tommy Lasorda interview, these are two guys that were kind of cut from the same cloth. Just absolutely hilarious. The one-liners, everything you can imagine. It's a lot of fun. So hope you enjoy this. It is Bob Uecker from 1983, and it's going to be a laugh fest for you.
Raleigh Fingers is just throwing at 60%. The next guy I'm going to introduce, he throws it at 100%. We've been waiting all night for this gentleman, and we know he's going to do an outstanding job. Great announcer. Matter of fact, when Johnny Carson retires, he takes over. And we're so happy to have him here this evening. Let's give a big welcome to Bob Uecker.
Thank you. Thank you, Bob. Thank you very much. Members of the head table, Reverend Father. Geez, I've heard a lot of crap up here tonight. Andy North talking about what the Greeks did. Gee. I thought this was a family deal, you know? Otto Graham watching the Super Bowl in Hawaii. Anyway, this is my first time here at the Red Smith dinner, and being around awards such as this. I have numerous trophies such as this. I think anybody, if you're willing to make a few sacrifices and pay the price, awards like this can be had. I know some of the bigger trophies I have cost me well over $200. I needed no introduction when I came in here tonight. I think that when the word baseball, champions is mentioned, my name would automatically come to your mind. A couple of years ago, I was honored as the native son from the state of Wisconsin, and I took an award really under false pretenses. I was not born in Wisconsin. I was born in Illinois. In 1935, my mother and father were on an oleo run to Chicago. On the way back toward Milwaukee, my mother got the pains. They pulled off into a rest area, a nativity type setting. Exit light shining down. Three wise men standing around. Two truck drivers and a baseball scout. And that's where she dropped me. Aided by the oleo. Two weeks after being born, weaning me off milk and putting me on beef jerky to toughen me up for the Cinderella story that was to take place later on down the road. I don't have to stand up here and tell you about all my accomplishments. I know you're all familiar with that. But I did not have the normal start that most youngsters have. Most youngsters, the father is the guy that really pushes them along. For me, it was my mom. My dad did not like athletics. I can remember my first competitive sport, 8th grade basketball. And I needed the essentials for grade school basketball, a supporter, a pair of tennis shoes, and my old man wouldn't put out the $2.50 for a supporter. So my mom made me one. Out of a Pillsbury flour sack. And I tell you, you walk into the gym and you whip that mother out of your bag. You know, right down the front it says Pillsbury's best. Plus the guy guarding you knows exactly where you're going. You know, little specks of flour keep dropping out. Attended Boys Tech High School in Milwaukee, and I think that was really the start of my downfall. You go to a prom at an all-boys high school. 1,800 guys standing around patting each other. I only went my freshman year. From there into the service, being awarded the Good Conduct Medal, sharpshooter, I picked them all up. And then signing a very, very modest $3,000 bonus with the Milwaukee Brewers at that time, which kind of aggravated my old man because he didn't have that kind of money to put out. The signing took place at a very, very popular restaurant in Milwaukee, and I told my old man not to be uptight or nervous about the signing. And I can remember pulling into the parking lot, and the Braves officials and their car parked next to us. And I told my old man, look, you know, it's not that big a deal. Don't be that keyed up about it. And, he screwed up right away. He didn't have the window rolled up far enough, and the tray fell off. And but from there, as I said before, a Cinderella career with the Braves, the St. Louis Cardinals in 1964, where I won the World's Championship for them. Overseas, a year and a half to Philadelphia. And then back to the Braves in Atlanta. And I think, you know, during every professional athlete's career, there comes a time when you know that your services are no longer required, that you might be moving on. And being with 4 major league clubs, I picked up a few of these tips. Gene Mauch at Philadelphia used to do little things to me to indicate I might be moving on. I'd be sitting on the bench, and he'd holler at me to grab a bat and stop this rally. Send me up there without a bat. Tell you to try for a walk. Maybe wear all the new shoes so the other players wouldn't get the blisters. Tell you you're playing a night game. You get to the ballpark and you find out they'd played that afternoon. Maybe to look down at the third base coach for a sign and have him turn his back on you. But I think many times a lesser man might have quit. Bat orders, a dozen bats with handles at both ends. People have asked me many times, how long would a dozen bats last you? Depending on what particular model I was using, weight, wood, I would say 8 to 10 cookouts. course, being born and raised in the state of Wisconsin, my first major league game played at County Stadium. And I've told this story before, but it bears repeating because it was a thrill to me, my family, my relatives, after all the grief that my parents went through to get me out of Wales, Wisconsin, and to standing on the field that day at County Stadium, and Bertie Tebbets, our manager, coming up to me and asking me if I was nervous or uptight about the game. And I said I wasn't. And he said, well, look, I know a lot of your relatives are here. Don't be uptight. Don't be nervous. I said, I'm not. I've been in the minor league 6 years waiting to get here. And Juan Marichal, who was just inducted into the Hall of Fame, was a pitcher that day. And hell, I had his gum card. I knew everything about Juan Marichal. And Bertie said, well, you're in there. And don't be uptight. I said, I'm not, I'm ready. And he said, by the way, the rest of us up here, we're that supporter on the inside. I think the one question asked of catchers more than anything else, and I think Harry knows this, and Tony Kubek, my good friend over here, Denny, catchers and pitchers, they're always walking out to the mound. People say they want to know what you talk about. I've had it happen where maybe I've eaten a real bad lunch, and rather than be offensive to two other people, you just take a walk. Maybe a piece of my equipment snapped. And I might want to remind the pitcher to throw the ball high. Baseball's been a lot of fun to me, it really has. I could have been good. You look at guys that hit their 320, 330 every year. What the hell do they have to look forward to? I figured if I could stay around maybe 190, maybe 1 or 2 RBIs a year, try to get them both in September, where you're not going to take that big cut. I never made a big salary. I think the biggest salary I made in baseball was $10,000. And 4,000 of that came from selling other players' equipment. Players have slumps. I don't care what you play, everybody has slumps. I think they're more mental than anything else. My first one, 1962. And to stay with yourself, to battle it, you're going to come out of it. And in 1967, there it was. I used to figure every year at the end of the year, if I laid off all winter, it would go away, but every spring, it was right back. I can remember talking to my father many times. You'd be in a slump, maybe an O for June or July. And the things he used to say to me, why in the hell don't you get a job? I'm not going to stand up here and tell you everything was peaches and cream, because it wasn't. I can remember a thing the Dodgers pulled on me one time. I came up in the 9th inning of a ball game, bases loaded, 2 outs, and we're down by a score of 2-1. And right before I stepped in the box, I looked in the Dodger dugout, and they were sitting there with their street clothes on. Instead of the catcher putting a sign down, just hollering out and telling the guy what to throw. I kids used to aggravate me. They always wanted to ride home with a different player. As I said before, I've had a lot of fun in baseball. The Rawlings Sporting Goods Company paid me a tremendous amount of money, never to be seen with any of their equipment. But you know, as your career gets down to an end, there's no more trades or being released. Being sold. You're being released. There is no more. It's a very trying time. I can remember the waning days of my career, trying to rejuvenate my career through the media. The Boy Scouts had planned a project for me here in the state of Wisconsin to plant a tree for every base hit I got. And the area turned into an erosion area, bad scene. No matter what, I've had a great time. I've really had a great time playing baseball. 6 years ago, going over to Japan with Hank Aaron, when Henry participated in the home run hitting contest against Sadaharu Oh. And I was involved in a contest against Prince Akihito, the Emperor's kid. Little short, skinny Japanese kid. I figured I'd bury him, you know. I thought it was totally unfair because the kid had never played baseball, and the Japanese people thought that would make it even. And, it's been a lot of fun for me, as I said. Not only my playing career, but of course, coming back and being able to be a member of the Brewer broadcast team along with my partner, Dwayne Mosley, who does a hell of a job in Sonoma. He really does. He does.
Well, Tosh, that was, I guess, worth the, what was it, been 40-some year wait to hear that. We hear snippets of Uke, some of those jokes, but oh my God, that guy is so funny. He might be the funniest guy on earth.
He's pretty awesome. Yeah.
He is. Tosh, well, that's probably enough to end the show, but you and I always like to play a little It's Forgotten, I'm Never Forgetting, just to get a couple of things off our minds. So with that said, Tosh, what's forgotten in your world?
What I would like to forget is fall yard work.
Yeah.
I spent about, 6-7 hours doing yard work on Saturday, just going to the dump with leaves and cutting down plants and everything like that. Don't get me wrong. I love fall. Fall's a great season. Love the trees. But the leaves, they get to me. So
yeah. Well, you have a lot of leaves in your yard, in your neighborhood.
Yeah, they come all over. And then when we get these nice, strong winds that are happening this week, everybody else's leaves blows into your yard, or your leaves blow into somebody else's yard. So it's everybody gets a share. So
yeah, I know. Absolutely. It's hard to rip on this fall because the weather has just been incredibly nice. I mean, selfishly, as a letter carrier, it's been awesome.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it's almost November. It's hard to believe.
Yeah.
It's hard to believe. We turn the clocks back. Is this the weekend we turn the clocks back?
It is. Yeah, we fall back this Sunday. So
all right, then total darkness.
Total darkness for sure. It'll be dark. I'll be going to school in the dark and coming home in the dark. Fantastic. Joe, how about yourself? What would you like to forget?
Well, Tosh, it's not what I forgot. It's what's just Appleton forgot, that they no longer suck at music and have sucky venues like they did in the 80s, Tosh. It is so good now. I mean, we talk about it all the time. Poplar Hall and mentioned I saw the Kitchen Dwellers there, and it just reminded me that we have just one of the best venues, really just a hidden gem, we've called it, in Poplar Hall. But we talked about August Haven, a furniture store of all places, but it's an incredible venue, and Gibson Hall, and so many of the bars have dedicated to building stages, putting in sound systems, lights, all of that. It was never like that in the 80s, the 90s when you and I, were bar hopping in our prime. You never had live. Very rarely did you have live music. And that was the norm in Appleton, in the Fox cities. But that's long forgotten, and it's a live music town now. And I love it.
I think one of our best venues growing up was Mongo's.
Right. It was.
and that was a fun little place to see music and have some drinks. But now we, thanks to Mile of Music, I mean, really, truly, what they've done is transformed an entire city, entire Fox Valley into music. And when Mile of Music is no longer going on, hopefully that doesn't happen for a very, very long time. That legacy of music hopefully will continue in the Fox Valley.
Yeah, that's the gift in the end that Mile brought us, because I mean it led to I'm sure there's not Poplar Hall without Mile of Music, and we haven't even mentioned it. There's a in the middle of the winter for the second year they're gonna have ice dance at the Paper Valley Hotel. Mm-hmm. And I remember talking to somebody last year, they sold out 300 rooms or whatever the hotel holds in the middle of the winter when nothing's really going on here, and it's music related. And this year's lineup is nuts. We'll talk about it more in another episode, but you're right. It's just the venues are here. The thirst for live music is here. And man, I'm happy to be an Appletonian, a Fox City Tonian. we have killer venues, Tosh. Killer
yes, we
venues.
Do. Absolutely.
No doubt. Well, we forgot that, but what's something we're never going to forget, Tosh? Something we're excited about.
Well, Joe, I don't know if I'm excited about it, but never want to forget Phil Lesh and the Grateful Dead. I mean, we mentioned that in the opening, but, Fish came out and played one of my favorite Dead songs, Box of Rain.
Yeah, that was incredible.
That was incredible. I remember we saw the Dead a few times, and we got to hear Box of Rain several times.
Yeah.
And that was just it's a great song. But Phil Lesh, I just read something, when he became the bass player, Jerry Garcia came up to him. They were sitting around. He goes, "Hey, you're going to be our bass player." And at that time, Phil didn't know how to play bass.
Right. He was a trumpet player. Yeah.
So he became the bass player. So it's a pretty incredible story. Obviously, very sad for Grateful Dead fans around the world. But we have so much music to remember them by that it'll never go away. No,
it really won't. I mean, that's been the cool thing, being a Deadhead, to see the music live on and its different forms. And I was just thinking, Tosh, as you were saying that, I mean, it's been a tough year for the Deadheads, losing Bill Walton and now Phil Lesh. I mean, it's been a rough year from that standpoint. But Absolutely. You're right, the music and the new generation, the way John Mayer of all people bought into it and just pushes it forward. It's something else to see. It's one of the cool things about just that whole, I don't know what you call it, jam band world or whatever. Mm-hmm. It's hard to explain, but it's a real energy that's there.
Yeah, absolutely. So get out and listen to some Dead, go to your Spotify or whatever you do, if you stream, or maybe you still have bootleg cassettes of some of the shows, and remember Phil, remember Jerry, remember the Dead. And enjoy yourselves and sit back and enjoy the music. But with that, Joe, how about yourself? What are you never forgetting?
Well, Tasha, I'm never forgetting a pretty neat story, and actually a fan of the Red Smith Banquet, a sponsor of the Red Smith Banquet, and a good friend of ours, and somebody I've known forever. But Billy, Mark Tretner, actually got to ring the closing bell at the New York Stock Exchange a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, yeah?
I that was the coolest thing. Yeah, their group was out there. He was on CNBC. You could see it as they panned, through the closing bell, and he had a great clap going. But it was pretty cool. He sent me. They send you like the New York Street Press, looks like a newspaper with a that day's article with a picture of Mark next to the bull. It was that was kind of cool. So I never had a friend ring a bell at the New York Stock Exchange, so that's hey, I'm never going to forget that. That's congratulations, Billy. That's cool as hell.
Yeah, congrats. That's awesome. That's a pretty that's something you don't hear every day. So very cool.
No, exactly. So, and you don't hear the Newsa-Cast every day either, Tosh, do you?
You do if you like and subscribe and go back to listen to old episodes. You can listen to it every single day.
Facts, Tosh. Facts. Every Thursday you get fresh facts. Well, Tosh, always a hoot. Got another one in the books.
Thank you for listening to another great episode of the Newsa-Cast. We'd really appreciate it if you hit up our social pages, subscribe, like, follow, and don't be afraid to engage. Head over to our YouTube channel to get exclusive content like the full interviews and speeches from the past Red Smith banquets.
A huge thank you to Diggstown for all the music in today's episode. Catch a gig or find them on Spotify.